You're just a maid. His fiancée mocked the black maid. The billionaire canceled the wedding minutes later. Marcus Harrison stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. At 35, he had everything money could buy, a tech empire worth billions, properties across 3 continents, and a name that commanded respect in every boardroom he entered. Yet none of it filled the void that had consumed him for 2 years.
Sarah.
Her name still caught in his throat like broken glass. The brain aneurysm had taken her without warning, snatching away not just his wife but his best friend, his partner, the woman who had loved him when he was just a college dropout with a dream and a laptop. Some mornings, he still reached for her across the bed, his hand finding only cold sheets. His therapist said he needed to start living again. His mother called weakly, her voice gentle but insistent. Sarah wouldn't want you to be alone forever, sweetheart. Even his business partners had started suggesting he get back out there, as if grief operated on a timeline that could be managed like quarterly earnings. That's how Victoria Ashford had entered his life. She was everything that made sense on paper, a successful real estate mogul, beautiful, sophisticated, moving in the same social circles. Their courtship had been practical rather than passionate, but Marcus had convinced himself that maybe this was what mature love looked like. Maybe fireworks were for the young and foolish. Maybe companionship was enough. The wedding was scheduled for this Saturday. 5 days away. The thought sat in his stomach like a stone, but he pushed it aside. He'd made a commitment. Victoria was a good woman. She understood his world. This made sense. Mr. Harrison? His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Your 5 o'clock is here. Marcus turned from the window, straightening his tie. Another meeting, another deal. This was the rhythm of his life now. Fill every moment with work, so there's no space left for feeling. But when he returned home that evening, stepping into his sprawling Upper East Side townhouse, something shifted in the air. He heard soft singing from the kitchen, a melody he recognized, a lullaby Sarah used to hum. His chest tightened. Welcome home, Mr. Harrison. Clara emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. His housekeeper for the past 18 months, she was a quiet presence in his life, efficient, kind, and invisible in the way wealthy people preferred their help to be. But Marcus had noticed things about Clara that made her different. The way she left his coffee exactly right every morning, somehow knowing when he'd had a sleepless night and needed it stronger. The way she'd carefully preserved Sarah's garden on the roof terrace, keeping her favorite roses alive when he couldn't bear to tend them himself. The way she never pitted him, never walked on eggshells, just treated him like a human being rather than a tragic figure. Thank you, Clara. He loosened his tie, suddenly exhausted. I'm sorry I'm late again. Victoria wanted to finalize the seating arrangements for Saturday. Something flickered across Clara's face. Was it concern? Sadness. But she simply nodded. I saved you dinner. It's warming in the oven. Would you like me to bring it to the study? The dining room is fine. He surprised himself with the answer. He'd been taking meals in his study for months, working through dinner. Would you join me? I hate eating alone. Clara's eyes widened. In 18 months, they'd maintained perfectly professional boundaries. But tonight, something in Marcus craved human connection, a real conversation with someone who didn't want anything from him. Sir, I don't think. Please, he said, and the vulnerability in his own voice startled him. Just for tonight. I promise the wedding planning hasn't driven me completely crazy, but I could use a friendly ear. After a long moment, Clara nodded. Let me get the food. Over pot roast and roasted vegetables. Comfort food that reminded Marcus of his grandmother's cooking. They talked. Really talked, in a way Marcus hadn't with anyone in months. Clara told him about growing up in Georgia, about her dreams of becoming a teacher before life had taken a different turn. She spoke about her 2-year-old daughter, Emma, with such fierce love that it made Marcus's heart ache. She's with a neighbor tonight, Clara explained, her dark eyes soft with affection. Emma can be a handful, but she's everything to me. After her father left. She paused, choosing words carefully. After he left, I thought my life was over. But she gave me a reason to keep going, to be better. Children have that power, don't they? To make us want to be worthy of their love. Marcus thought of the children he and Sarah had planned to have. Another dream buried with her. They do. Sarah wanted kids so badly. We were going to start trying. He stopped, surprised at himself. He never talked about this.
Sorry.
You don't need to hear about. Mr. Harrison. Clara's voice was gentle but firm. Grief doesn't have an expiration date. And talking about someone we've lost keeps them alive in our hearts. I'd be honored to hear about Mrs. Harrison if you want to share. And so he did. For the first time since the funeral, Marcus talked about Sarah. Not the sanitized version he offered at charity events in her memory, but the real Sarah. How she snorted when she laughed too hard. Her terrible singing voice that she inflicted on him anyway. The way she'd been fearless in business, but terrified of spiders. The goofy faces she'd make to cheer him up after a difficult day. Clara listened with her whole attention, asking questions, laughing at the happy memories, her eyes shining with unshed tears at the sad ones. She didn't offer platitudes or try to fix his pain. She just witnessed it, honored it. When they finally cleared the dishes, Clara insisted, despite his protests, Marcus felt lighter than he had in months. At the doorway, Clara turned back. Mr. Harrison? I hope you don't mind me saying this, but make sure this wedding is what your heart wants, not just what makes sense. Life's too short for sensible when it comes to love. Before he could respond, she was gone, leaving him standing in the empty dining room, her words echoing in the silence. The next morning, Marcus woke to chaos, or rather, to the joyful sounds of chaos that had been absent from his home for too long. A child's laughter rang through the hallway, bright and uninhibited, followed by Clara's gentle chiding. Emma rose. We must be quiet. Mr. Harrison is still sleeping. But the giggles only intensified. Curious despite himself, Marcus pulled on a robe and opened his bedroom door to find a tiny tornado in pink pajamas racing down the hallway, her brown curls bouncing wildly. She couldn't have been more than 2 feet tall, all chubby cheeks and enormous brown eyes that sparkled with mischief. Emma, baby, please. Clara appeared from around the corner, slightly out of breath, and froze when she saw Marcus. Horror washed over her face. Mr. Harrison. I'm so sorry. The neighbor had a family emergency and couldn't watch Emma today. I was going to keep her in the kitchen. I promise she won't disturb. Bertie. Emma shrieked with delight, pointing past Marcus to where a pigeon had landed on the hallway windowsill. She took off running straight toward him, or rather, toward the bird, with the fearless determination only toddlers possess. Marcus caught her mid-sprint, scooping her up on instinct. She was surprisingly solid for such a little thing, warm and wriggly in his arms. Emma stared at him with those enormous eyes, and for a moment, he saw Clara's features miniaturized, the same warm brown eyes, the same gentle curve to her cheeks. Bertie, Emma said again, this time directly to Marcus, as if explaining something very important. She pointed insistently at the window. I see the birdie, Marcus heard himself say, his voice softening automatically. It's a pigeon. Can you say pigeon? Pigeon, Emma attempted, then dissolved into giggles at her own pronunciation. She patted Marcus's cheek with one small hand, as if they were old friends. You funny. Something cracked open in Marcus's chest, something he'd kept carefully sealed since Sarah's death. He looked at Clara, who was still frozen in the hallway, clearly preparing for him to be angry. It's okay, he said quietly. I don't have any meetings until noon. Emma's welcome to stay. Sir, I couldn't possibly. I insist. Marcus surprised himself by meaning it. He looked down at Emma, who was now examining his face with intense concentration, as if he were the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. Besides, I've been told my office skills are top-notch, but I've never tested them with a 2-year-old. Consider it a challenge. That's how Marcus Harrison, billionaire CEO, spent his Tuesday morning having a tea party on his living room floor with a toddler and her mother. Emma had firm opinions about how tea parties should be conducted. Plastic cups must be held with pinkies out, Her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Flopsy, must be served first, and everyone must say cheers before drinking their imaginary tea. Cheers. Emma clinked her plastic cup against Marcus's, sloshing invisible tea everywhere, then collapsed in giggles. Clara watched from nearby, ready to intervene if needed, but Marcus waved her away. Sit, please. You work too hard. Besides, I need to understand the proper tea party protocol from the expert. He turned to Emma solemnly. Am I doing this right? Emma considered this question with the seriousness it deserved, her tiny brow furrowed. Then she nodded. You good at tea party. Not good as Mama, but good. Well, your Mama is the best at everything, Marcus said, catching Clara's surprised expression. I'd say second place is pretty impressive. They played for over an hour. Marcus found himself building block towers for Emma to knock down, reading picture books with dramatic voices that made her squeal with delight, and answering an endless stream of why questions with a patience he didn't know he possessed. Why is sky blue? Because of the way sunlight bounces off tiny particles in the air. Why? Well, light is made up of different colors. Why? Because that's a very good question. What do you think? Emma thought hard, her little face scrunched up. Because God painted it. That's probably the best answer, Marcus agreed, feeling his heart twist with unexpected tenderness. When Emma's energy finally flagged, she climbed into Marcus's lap, unbidden, as natural as breathing, and rested her head against his chest. Within minutes, she was asleep, her small body completely trusting, one hand clutching his shirt. Marcus sat frozen, terrified to move and wake her. Across from him, Clara had tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. She doesn't usually warm up to strangers this quickly. Her father, he left before she was born. She doesn't have many men in her life. Don't apologize. Marcus looked down at the sleeping child, at her impossibly long lashes and the peaceful expression on her face. She's perfect. You've raised an amazing little girl, Clara. Thank you, Clara said softly. She's my whole world. Every sacrifice, every long hour, every moment of fear, it's all worth it when she looks at me like I hung the moon. She paused. You would have been a wonderful father, Mr. Harrison. The words hit him like a physical blow, but not painfully. More like a door opening to a room he'd thought was locked forever. Marcus, he said quietly. When it's just us, call me Marcus. Over the next few days, Emma became a fixture in the Harrison household. The neighbor's emergency turned into a longer situation, and Clara couldn't find alternative childcare on short notice. Marcus insisted she bring Emma to work rather than take time off. The wedding was days away. There was too much to do. But the truth was, Marcus looked forward to seeing Emma's bright face every morning. She greeted him with hugs and endless questions, dragged him into tea parties and treasure hunts, and somehow made his enormous, echoing house feel like a home again. He found himself leaving work early to read her bedtime stories. He bought her a ridiculous amount of toys from the expensive children's boutique on Fifth Avenue. He learned which foods she loved, mac and cheese, strawberries, fishy crackers, and which she'd refuse with dramatic declarations. Broccoli is yucky, Marcus. Yes, she'd started calling him Marcus. Clara had tried to correct her. Mr. Harrison, sweetheart. But Marcus had stopped her. Hearing his name in that sweet, lisping voice felt right in a way he couldn't explain. Victoria came by once during this period, arriving unannounced to discuss final wedding details. She found Marcus on the floor, wearing a plastic tiara, while Emma applied stickers to his face. What is this? Victoria asked, her perfectly shaped eyebrows rising. This is Emma, Marcus said, carefully standing with Emma in his arms. She's Clara's daughter. Emma, can you say hello to Ms. Ashford? Emma studied Victoria with the brutal honesty of a 2-year-old, then buried her face in Marcus's neck. No, came her muffled response. Victoria's smile tightened. Charming. Marcus, we need to discuss the photographer's timeline. Can we go somewhere more appropriate? After Clara had whisked Emma away, the little girl protesting loudly, Victoria turned to Marcus with barely concealed irritation. Really, Marcus? Playing nanny to the help's child? This is beneath you. She's not the help's child. She's Emma and she's 2 years old. And she has no business disrupting your household days before our wedding. Victoria's voice took on a sharp edge. I hope you don't plan to continue this arrangement after we're married. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. What do you mean? I mean that we'll need to establish proper boundaries with the staff. Clara is excellent at her job, but bringing her child to work is unprofessional. Once we're married, I'll handle the household management. We'll need someone who understands that personal issues stay at home. Clara is a single mother doing her best. She's been nothing but professional. A single mother? Victoria's laugh was sharp. How unfortunate for her. But her poor life choices aren't our responsibility, Marcus. We have a certain standard to maintain. Marcus stared at his fiancée as if seeing her clearly for the first time. Where was the warmth? The compassion? Had it always been missing, or had he been too numb to notice? I should go, Victoria said, checking her phone. The wedding planner needs final approval on the centerpieces. I'll see you at the rehearsal dinner Thursday. She kissed his cheek, a cool, perfunctory gesture, and left, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Marcus stood alone in his living room, still wearing the tiara, Emma's stickers decorating his face. For the first time, he allowed himself to truly question what he was about to do. Thursday arrived with the rehearsal dinner scheduled for 7 o'clock at the Metropolitan Club. Marcus spent the day in back-to-back meetings, trying to ignore the growing sense of dread in his chest. In 48 hours, he would be married. In 48 hours, his life would change forever. Was this what he wanted? Or was he just going through the motions because it seemed like the next logical step? He pushed the thoughts aside. He'd made a commitment. Victoria deserved better than a husband with cold feet. At 6:30, he was straightening his tie when his phone buzzed with a text from Clara. Mr. Harrison, so sorry to bother you. Emma has a fever. She keeps asking for you. Is there any chance you could call? Just for a minute? Your voice might comfort her. Marcus's heart clenched. He immediately dialed Clara's number. Marcus. Emma's small, congested voice came through the phone, and he could hear that she'd been crying. I don't feel good. I know, sweetheart. Your mama told me. Are you being brave? A sniffle. Trying. But my head hurts and I'm hot, and I want you to read me the dinosaur book. Marcus closed his eyes. The dinosaur book, a ridiculously expensive illustrated encyclopedia he'd bought her 3 days ago. She'd made him read it 7 times already. I can't right now, Emma. I have somewhere I need to be, but I promise. Please, Marcus, Emma whispered, her voice breaking. Please come home. I need you. The word home struck him like lightning. When had his house become home to this little girl? When had he become someone she needed? Put your mama on the phone, Marcus said gently. Clara's worried voice replaced Emma's. I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrison. I shouldn't have asked her to call. I know tonight is your rehearsal dinner. She's been running a fever all afternoon and nothing I do helps and she keeps crying for you and her voice cracked. I'm sorry. We'll be fine. Please don't worry. Clara, stop apologizing. Marcus made a decision that felt both insane and absolutely right. I'm coming home. What? No, sir, you can't. I can, and I am. Take care of Emma. I'll be there soon. He called Victoria. She answered on the first ring, her voice bright with excitement. Marcus, are you almost here? My parents just arrived, and… Victoria, I can't make it to the rehearsal dinner. A pause. What do you mean you can't make it? Marcus, everyone is here. The dinner starts in 20 minutes. I know, and I'm sorry. There's an emergency at home. An emergency? What kind of emergency? Marcus hesitated, knowing how this would sound. Emma's sick. She has a fever, and she's asking for me. I need to be there. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. When Victoria spoke again, her voice was ice cold. You're choosing that woman's child over our rehearsal dinner? Over our wedding party? Over me? She's a 2-year-old with a fever, Victoria. She's scared. She has a mother to take care of her. That's not your responsibility, Marcus. Maybe not legally, but nothing. Victoria's voice rose, sharp enough to cut glass. This is ridiculous. This is our rehearsal dinner. Do you have any idea how this looks? What am I supposed to tell my parents? Our friends? Sorry, everyone. The groom decided to play house with the maid's kid instead? Don't talk about them like that. Like what? Like their staff? Because that's what they are, Marcus. Clara is your housekeeper. She works for you. She is not family, and neither is her child. I don't care how cute you think that little girl is. She is not your responsibility. Marcus felt something snap inside him, a thread he hadn't even realized was holding him together. You're right, he said quietly. She's not my responsibility. But I care about her anyway. And I care about Clara, who has been nothing but kind and professional while juggling single motherhood and a demanding job. They deserve better than to be dismissed as just the help. Oh, for God's sake. Fine. Go play hero to your housekeeper. But don't expect me to understand. I'll handle the rehearsal dinner alone, Marcus, but we need to have a serious conversation about boundaries before Saturday. She hung up before he could respond. Marcus stood in his office, phone in hand, and felt the weight of the past 2 years crash over him. He thought of Sarah, really thought of her, not the sanitized memory he'd been carrying, but the real woman. What would she say if she could see him now? She'd call him an idiot for even considering marrying someone like Victoria. She'd tell him that life was too short to settle for anything less than real love, real connection, real partnership. She'd tell him that moving on didn't mean moving forward with the wrong person. And she'd absolutely tell him to go home to Emma. Marcus grabbed his coat and left. He found them in the guest room, the room that had somehow become Emma's room over the past week, filled with toys and books and the glow of a nightlight shaped like a crescent moon. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, a damp cloth in her hand, looking exhausted and worried. Emma lay curled under a blanket, her cheeks flushed with fever, her eyes glassy. Marcus. Emma's face lit up despite her obvious misery. She held out her arms, and he went to her without hesitation, gathering her against his chest. Hey, little one. I heard you're not feeling so good. My head hurts, Emma whispered against his shirt. But you're here now. You came home. Of course I came home. I'll always come when you need me. Clara stood, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Harrison, Marcus, I don't know what to say. The rehearsal dinner. Doesn't matter. Marcus met her eyes over Emma's curls. This matters. She matters. You both matter. But the wedding? Clara. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. There's not going to be a wedding. Her eyes widened. What? I'll explain later. Right now, let's take care of Emma. He looked down at the little girl, who was already dozing against his chest, her fever-warm body trusting and small. Have you given her anything for the fever? Children's Tylenol an hour ago. The pediatrician said to call if it goes above 103, but it's hovering at 102. Just needs rest and fluids. Clara's professional mask was cracking, vulnerability showing through. Marcus, you shouldn't have come. This isn't your... Don't finish that sentence. Marcus adjusted Emma gently, cradling her like the precious thing she was. Can you grab the dinosaur book? She asked me to read it to her. Over the next 2 hours, Marcus read about velociraptors and T-Rexes in the softest voice he could manage while Emma drifted in and out of feverish sleep. Clara changed the cool cloth on Emma's forehead, brought water with a bendy straw that made Emma smile despite feeling awful, and generally performed the small miracles that mothers do. At one point, while Emma was sleeping, Clara whispered, "You really called off the wedding?" "I will. I haven't officially yet, but yes. It's the right thing to do." Because of Emma being sick? No. Marcus looked at the sleeping child, then at Clara's exhausted, beautiful face. Because I've been sleepwalking through life for 2 years, and you two woke me up. Because I was about to marry someone who sees people as status symbols rather than humans. Because... He paused, afraid of the truth but needing to say it anyway. Because somewhere in the past week, you and Emma started feeling like family, and I can't ignore that. Clara's breath caught. Marcus. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I know I'm your employer. I know the power dynamic is complicated. I'm just being honest. For the first time in 2 years, I feel alive. You did that. Both of you. Before Clara could respond, Emma stirred, her small hand reaching for Marcus. Don't go, she mumbled, still half asleep. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus promised, settling back against the headboard. I'm right here, sweetheart. Emma's fever broke around midnight. Her color returned to normal, her breathing evened out, and she fell into genuine sleep rather than the restless fever doze she'd been in. Clara sagged with relief, and Marcus realized she'd been holding herself together through sheer force of will. Go get some rest, he told her quietly. I'll stay with her. You don't have to, Clara. He caught her hand, the first time he'd intentionally touched her. Her skin was warm, calloused from work, and perfect. Let me be here. Please. She squeezed his hand once, then nodded. But she didn't go far, just to the armchair in the corner, where she curled up with a blanket and fell asleep watching over her daughter and the man who'd walked away from his own wedding rehearsal for them. Marcus stayed awake, Emma sleeping in his arms, and thought about second chances. About how love doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it creeps up quietly, in tea parties and bedtime stories, in the way a woman's eyes light up when she talks about her daughter, in the trust of a little girl who calls you when she's scared. He thought about Sarah, and for the first time, he didn't feel crushing guilt at the idea of moving forward. He felt blessed. Blessed that he'd known her love, and blessed again to feel his heart opening to new love. As dawn broke through the window, Emma woke up, her fever gone, and smiled at him. You stayed, she said, as if this was the most wonderful thing she could imagine. Always, Marcus promised. And he meant it. The wedding day arrived with cruel perfection, bright sunshine, gentle breeze, the kind of day that photographers dream about and brides plan for. Marcus woke in the guest room chair, his neck cramped, his body stiff, and absolutely certain he was making the right decision. Emma was awake, playing quietly with her stuffed rabbit, her fever completely gone. She looked up when Marcus stirred and graced him with a megawatt smile. Marcus. You're still here. Mama said you would be, but I wasn't sure because sometimes grown-ups say things and then they leave, but you stayed. I told you I would. He stretched, wincing at the protest from his back. How are you feeling, little one? All better. I'm hungry. Can we have pancakes? You make them funny-shaped. Clara appeared in the doorway, looking like she hadn't slept much despite the chair. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face drawn with worry. Emma, baby, why don't you go wash your hands? I need to talk to Marcus for a minute. Okay. Emma bounced off the bed with the resilience of toddlers everywhere, completely recovered. But then pancakes, right? Then pancakes, Marcus promised. Once Emma was out of earshot, Clara's composure crumbled. Marcus, your wedding is in 6 hours. What are you doing? You should be at the venue getting ready, not. There's no wedding, Clara. You can't just cancel a wedding because a toddler had a fever. I'm not. Marcus stood, moving closer to her. I'm canceling a wedding because I was marrying the wrong person for the wrong reasons. Emma being sick just made me see it clearly. But all those people, the expense, Ms. Ashford, will survive. Marcus reached for Clara's hands, and after a moment, she let him take them. I spent 2 years in darkness, Clara. I thought I'd never feel alive again. Then you came into my life, you and Emma, and suddenly there was laughter in my house again. Joy. Purpose. I can't marry Victoria when I... He stopped, terrified and brave at once. When I'm falling in love with you. Clara pulled her hands back, her eyes wide with shock. No. No, Marcus, you can't say that. I'm your housekeeper. You're my employer. It's impossible. Why? Because. Clara's voice rose, then dropped to a whisper. Because I'm a 28-year-old single mother who cleans houses for a living. You're a billionaire. You're kind and generous, and you've been wonderful to Emma. But this isn't real. It's just you're grateful, or you're confused, or I'm telling you the truth. Marcus's voice was quiet but certain. Do you think I don't know the difference between gratitude and love? I loved Sarah with everything I had. I know what it feels like. And I know what I feel when you walk into a room, when you laugh at something I say, when I watch you with Emma. This is real. Even if it is, Clara said, tears streaming down her face now. It doesn't matter. The world will say I'm a gold digger, that I trapped you, that. The world can think whatever it wants. Easy for you to say. You're Marcus Harrison. I'm nobody. If this goes wrong, if you change your mind, I lose everything, my job, my home, my ability to provide for my daughter. Her words hit him like cold water. She was right. The power imbalance was real. The risks for her were enormous. He'd been so caught up in his own feelings that he hadn't fully considered what he was asking of her. You're right, he said quietly. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Your job is secure regardless, Clara. And you and Emma can stay here as long as you need. I'll still cancel the wedding, but I won't. I won't pressure you. I just needed you to know the truth. Before Clara could respond, his phone rang. Victoria. He'd been ignoring her calls since last night. Time to face the music. I need to take this, he said. Can you watch Emma? Clara nodded wordlessly, and Marcus stepped into the hallway, steeling himself. Marcus. Victoria's voice was clipped, controlled fury. I assume you're on your way to the venue? We need at least 2 hours for photos before the ceremony. Victoria, we need to talk. In person. I'm coming to the venue now, but what? More drama about the help? Marcus, I swear if you're still.
This isn't about them.
Well, not entirely. I'll be there in an hour. Don't start the preparations yet. He hung up before she could argue, then stood in the hallway of his home, gathering his courage. This was going to hurt people. Victoria would be humiliated. Hundreds of guests would have their Saturday disrupted. The society pages would have a field day. But marrying Victoria would be a lie. And after 2 years of grief, Marcus was done living anything but the truth. He showered and dressed in casual clothes, pointedly not his tuxedo, and told Clara he'd be back soon. Emma demanded a hug, which he gave freely, breathing in her little kid scent of strawberry shampoo and innocence. You're coming back, right? Emma asked, her small hands on his cheeks. Absolutely. I just need to take care of something important. Okay, but hurry. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, sweetheart. As Marcus drove to the plaza, where the wedding was supposed to take place in a few hours, he rehearsed what he'd say. How do you tell someone that you're not in love with them? That you are using them as a shield against grief? That they deserve someone who looks at them the way he looked at Sarah, or the way he'd started looking at Clara? The venue was already bustling with activity. Florists arranging massive displays of white roses and orchids, staff setting up chairs, a string quartet tuning their instruments. Marcus felt sick at the waste of it all, at the hurt he was about to cause. He found Victoria in the bridal suite, already in her wedding dress, a stunning creation of silk and lace that had cost more than most people's cars. She looked beautiful and cold, like an ice sculpture. Finally, she said, turning to him, Marcus, what are you wearing? You need to. Victoria, I can't marry you. The room went silent. Victoria's makeup artist and hairstylist exchanged glances and quickly excused themselves, sensing disaster. What did you just say? I can't marry you.
I'm sorry.
I thought I was ready to move on, but I'm not. Not like this. Not with, he stopped himself. You deserve someone who loves you completely. That's not me. Victoria's face went through a rapid series of expressions, shock, hurt, and finally, cold fury. This is about that maid, isn't it? About her and her little bastard? Don't call Emma that. Oh my God. Victoria laughed, a brittle sound. You're actually defending them. You're throwing away our wedding, our life together, for your housekeeper? Marcus, are you insane? Do you have any idea how this looks? I don't care how it looks. Well, I do. I've spent months planning this wedding. I've told everyone in our circle that I'm marrying Marcus Harrison. My parents flew in from Europe. We have 300 guests waiting. And you're going to humiliate me over what? A crush on the help. It's not a crush. And Clara has nothing to do with this decision, not really. I'm canceling the wedding because I'm not in love with you, Victoria. I like you, I respect you, but I don't love you. I was trying to fill a void, and that's not fair to either of us. Victoria's eyes narrowed. She's put ideas in your head, hasn't she? Probably been planning this from the moment she started working for you. I warned you about keeping her around, but you wouldn't listen. Clara has been nothing but professional. Professional? Victoria's voice dripped with contempt. She's been playing you, Marcus. The poor single mother act, the cute kid, gaining your sympathy. And you fell for it like a fool. She saw a lonely widower and a meal ticket and… Stop. Marcus's voice was sharp enough to cut. You don't know her. You don't know anything about her. Clara has more integrity in her little finger than most people I know. She's never asked me for anything. She's worked herself to exhaustion to provide for her daughter. She's kind and strong and real in a way that… He stopped himself before he said something truly cruel. But Victoria heard it anyway. In a way that I'm not? Is that what you were going to say? Marcus was silent, which was answer enough. Victoria's laugh was ugly. Congratulations, Marcus. You've thrown away our future for what? The fantasy of playing house with a maid? Reality will hit you soon enough. You'll realize that people like her don't belong in your world. She'll embarrass you at charity galas, won't know which fork to use at state dinners, won't be able to keep up with the demands of your life. And when that happens, when the novelty wears off and you're stuck with… Get out. Victoria blinked. What? Get out of this room. Get out of this venue. Get out of my life. Marcus's voice was quiet but filled with steel. I came here to end this with dignity and respect. To apologize for hurting you and take full responsibility. But I won't stand here and let you talk about Clara that way. She's worth 10 of you, Victoria. Maybe if I'd seen that sooner, we could have both avoided this mess. You'll regret this, Victoria hissed, her composure finally cracking. Everyone will know what you've done. They'll know you threw me over for the help. Your reputation will survive. Can you say the same? It was a low blow, but effective. Victoria's face went white, then red. Get out, she said, echoing his words. Get out before I say something I'll regret. Marcus left, walking through the venue one last time. He stopped to tell the wedding planner to cancel everything, to send the guests home, to donate the flowers to local hospitals and the food to homeless shelters. He'd pay for everything, of course, all the lost deposits and canceled contracts. Money was one thing he had plenty of. As he walked out of the plaza, photographers already gathering after some guest or vendor had clearly tipped off the press. Marcus felt lighter than he had in years. Yes, there would be fallout. Yes, the gossip would be brutal. But he'd told the truth. He'd chosen authenticity over convenience. Now he just had to figure out what came next. Marcus returned home to find his house transformed. Somehow, in the few hours he'd been gone, Clara had turned his typically pristine, magazine-worthy kitchen into something that looked lived in and loved. There were Emma's drawings taped to the refrigerator, colorful scribbles that apparently depicted Marcus and me at the park. A small stack of picture books sat on the counter. A plastic cup with cartoon princesses on it waited by the sink. Emma was at the kitchen table, covered in flour, standing on a chair while Clara guided her small hands through rolling cookie dough. They were both laughing, utterly absorbed in their work, and hadn't noticed him come in. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching them, and felt his heart crack open even wider. This was what a home should feel like. Not the sterile perfection Victoria had been planning, all white marble and carefully curated art pieces that no one was allowed to touch. This beautiful, messy, joyful chaos. Marcus. Emma spotted him first, her whole face lighting up. We're making cookies. Mama says I'm the best helper ever. Look. She held up a lumpy, flour-covered mess that might have once been intended as a circle. This one's for you. It's perfect, Marcus said, his throat tight. The best cookie I've ever seen. Clara looked up, her hands still mid-roll, her eyes searching his face. How did it go? I'll tell you later. Right now, I need to help make cookies. That is, if the head chef will allow me in her kitchen. Emma nodded seriously. You can help, but you have to be very careful. Cookies are important business. Very important, Marcus agreed, washing his hands and joining them at the table. For the next hour, they made the messiest, most uneven batch of cookies Marcus had ever seen. Emma insisted on adding extra chocolate chips for love, which meant each cookie had approximately 3 times the amount of chocolate chips necessary. She also insisted on taste-testing the dough repeatedly, despite Clara's protests about raw eggs. Just a little bit won't hurt, Emma insisted with the iron logic of a 2-year-old. Besides, I need to make sure it's good enough for Marcus. It's definitely good enough, Marcus assured her, sneaking a small taste himself and earning a mock-stern look from Clara. You're supposed to be the responsible adult here, Clara said, but her eyes were soft, affectionate. Responsible is overrated, Marcus replied, booping Emma's nose with a flour-covered finger. She squealed and tried to retaliate, leading to a flour fight that left all 3 of them covered in white powder. Later, after the cookies were baked and cooling, after Emma had been cleaned up and was contentedly watching her favorite cartoon in the living room, Clara and Marcus stood at the kitchen sink, washing dishes in comfortable silence. So, Clara finally said, her hands stilled in the soapy water. You really did it. You called off the wedding. I did. How bad was it? Marcus considered lying, sugarcoating it, but decided Clara deserved the truth. Pretty bad. Victoria said some things about you and Emma. Ugly things. I told her she was wrong and walked out. Clara's shoulders tensed. What kind of things? Does it matter? She was hurt and angry. People say things they don't mean when they're hurt. Marcus. Clara turned to him, her brown eyes serious. What did she say? So he told her. All of it. The accusations of gold digging, the insinuations about Clara's motives, the cruel words about Emma. With each sentence, he watched Clara's face close off, like watching flowers fold up at nightfall. When he finished, Clara was silent for a long moment. Then she carefully dried her hands on a towel and turned to face him fully. She wasn't entirely wrong, Clara said quietly. What? Not about the gold digging, I would never. But about the rest. Marcus, I don't belong in your world. I'm a high school graduate who cleans houses. I say ain't sometimes, and I don't know the difference between a salad fork and a dessert fork, and I've never been to the opera. Your friends, your colleagues, they'll look at me and see exactly what Victoria saw. The help who got above herself. I don't care what they think. But I do. Clara's voice rose, passionate. I have to care, Marcus. Because if this, whatever this is between us, if it falls apart, you'll be fine. You'll still be Marcus Harrison, billionaire. But me? I'll be the gold digger who seduced her employer. I'll be the cautionary tale other rich men tell each other about keeping the staff at arm's length. And Emma? Her voice broke. Emma will be the maid's daughter who wasn't good enough for your world. Marcus felt his own frustration rising. So, what are you saying? That we should just ignore this connection because of what other people might think. I'm saying it's more complicated than you're making it seem. You've been lonely, you've been grieving, and Emma and I came along and filled that void. But what happens in 6 months? A year? When the novelty wears off and you realize that dating your former housekeeper is more trouble than it's worth. You really think that little of me? Marcus asked, hurt bleeding into his voice. No, Clara said, tears streaming down her face now. I think the world of you. That's the problem. You're the first man since Emma's father who's made me feel like I could maybe, possibly, trust again. Who's made me feel seen and valued and beautiful. You look at me like I matter, like I'm not just the help or just a mother or just another person struggling to get by. You make me feel like I'm enough. You are enough. You're more than enough.
For now.
But for how long? How long before your family starts pressuring you to find someone suitable? How long before your friends make their little comments that eat away at you? How long before you start seeing me the way Victoria does, as beneath you? Never. Marcus closed the distance between them, taking her shoulders gently. Clara, look at me. I know what I feel. This isn't gratitude or loneliness or grief. It's not me projecting Sarah onto you. You're nothing like her, and I love that about you. You're yourself, completely and perfectly yourself. You're strong and kind and funny, and the best mother I've ever seen. You make me want to be better, do better, live better. Marcus. Clara's resolve was wavering. He could see it in her eyes. I'm not saying we have to rush into anything. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow, or even date me right now if you're not ready. But please, please don't walk away, because you're afraid of what might happen. Don't let Victoria's poison win. Clara closed her eyes, leaning into his touch like she was starving for it. I'm terrified, she whispered. Of getting hurt. Of Emma getting hurt. Of this being too good to be true. I'm terrified too, Marcus admitted. Loving someone means giving them the power to destroy you. I know that. I lived through losing Sarah. But I also know that the alternative, never loving again, never taking that risk, that's not living at all. It's just existing. Before Clara could respond, Emma called from the living room. Mama. Marcus. Come watch with me. The princess is gonna sing the song. They stood frozen for a moment, the tension between them thick enough to taste. Then Clara laughed, watery and broken and beautiful. She has perfect timing, doesn't she? The very best, Marcus agreed. Clara, I'm not going anywhere. Take whatever time you need. But know that I'm here, and I'm not going to change my mind. You and Emma, you're my second chance at happiness. I'm not going to waste it. They went to the living room, where Emma had made a nest of blankets and pillows on the couch. She looked up at them with those enormous eyes and patted the spots on either side of her. You sit here, Mama. Marcus, you sit there. I want both of you. So they sat, Emma wedged between them, and watched a movie about a princess who saves herself instead of waiting for a prince. Every so often, Emma would look up at one of them, as if checking that they were still there, and smile with deep satisfaction. Halfway through the movie, Emma fell asleep, her head on Clara's lap, her legs stretched across Marcus's. Clara met his eyes across the sleeping child, and in her gaze, he saw fear and hope in equal measure. I need time, she said softly, to think, to be sure, to figure out how this could possibly work. Take all the time you need, Marcus replied. I'll be here. And in that moment, with Emma sleeping between them and cookies cooling in the kitchen and the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, Marcus knew he'd made the right choice. Not just in canceling the wedding, but in choosing love over comfort, authenticity over appearances, and hope over fear. The scandal hit the society pages within hours. Billionaire jilts socialite at altar, screamed one headline. Harrison wedding called off. Inside the drama, promised another. Marcus's phone blew up with calls from concerned friends, curious colleagues, and outraged business associates who'd had to explain to their spouses why the social event of the season had been canceled. Marcus ignored most of them. He'd released a brief statement through his PR team. After careful consideration, Ms. Ashford and I have decided not to move forward with our wedding. This was a mutual decision, and we both wish each other well. I ask that you respect our privacy during this time. It was a lie about the mutual part, but it was kinder than the truth. Victoria, meanwhile, had given her own interviews, painting herself as the victim of a man who'd lost his mind in grief. She didn't mention Clara by name, but the implications were clear. The tabloids had a field day speculating about the mysterious other woman. Through it all, Clara and Emma stayed in the townhouse. Marcus had offered them the entire guest suite, turned it into a proper apartment with its own living space. He'd also given Clara a formal leave from her housekeeping duties with full pay, not because he didn't want her around, but because he needed her to know she had choices, that she didn't have to work for him to stay. The first week was awkward. They circled each other cautiously, both terrified of the intensity that had sparked between them. But Emma, oblivious to adult complications, demanded time with both of them, and slowly, they found their rhythm. Marcus would wake to find Emma in his bed, having wandered in some time during the night. You have bad dreams alone, she'd explained matter-of-factly. I keep the scary things away. Clara started cooking dinner for all of them, insisting it was silly to eat separately. They'd sit around the kitchen table, no formal dining room, just the three of them, and talk about their days. Emma would narrate long, complicated stories about imaginary friends and playground adventures. Clara would share funny anecdotes from her day. Marcus would talk about work, but in ways Emma could understand, turning complicated business dealings into stories about helping people make things better. One evening, about 10 days after the canceled wedding, Emma looked between them with a serious expression. "Are you and Mama gonna get married?" Marcus choked on his water. Clara's face went bright red. Emma rose. We're not, you can't just ask people that." "Why not?" Emma seemed genuinely confused. "You like Marcus. Marcus likes you. I can tell because you smile different when you look at him. And Marcus smiles different at you too. That's what people do when they love each other. They get married." "It's not quite that simple, sweetheart," Marcus said gently. "Why not? On TV, when people love each other, they get married and live together and be happy. We live together already, and we're happy, so we just need the married part." Clara looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. "Emma, adult relationships are more complicated than..." "But why?" Emma insisted with toddler persistence. "If you love someone and they love you and you're happy, why make it complicated?" Marcus and Clara looked at each other across the table, and something passed between them, a recognition that out of the mouths of babes comes uncomfortable wisdom. Later, after Emma was in bed, they sat on the roof terrace among Sarah's roses, which Clara had tended so carefully. The city lights spread out below them like earthbound stars. "She's not wrong," Marcus said quietly. "We do make it complicated." "Because it is complicated," Clara replied, but there was less conviction in her voice than before. "Is it? Or are we just scared?" Clara was quiet for a long moment. "I've been thinking about something. About Emma's father." Marcus waited, knowing this was important. "His name was Derek. We met when I was 24, working 2 jobs, trying to save money for college. He was charming, attentive, said all the right things. I fell hard." She paused, her hands twisting in her lap. "When I got pregnant, he accused me of trapping him. Said I'd done it on purpose to get money from him. The day I told him about Emma, he left. I haven't seen him since." "Clara, Let me finish." She took a shaky breath. "For 2 years, I told myself I'd never trust anyone again. That men like you, successful, wealthy, confident men, were all the same. They might say pretty things, but when it came down to it, people like me were disposable. But then..." She turned to him, her eyes shining with tears. "Then you spent the night in a chair because a little girl who isn't yours had a fever. You walked away from your wedding because someone insulted us. You've been patient and kind, and you've never once made me feel like I owe you anything." "You don't owe me anything." "I know. That's the point. Derek made me feel like I owed him gratitude for even being with me. Like I should be thankful that someone like him would lower himself to date someone like me. But you..." Her voice broke. "You make me feel like I'm the one doing you a favor. Like you're the lucky one." "I am the lucky one." Clara laughed through her tears. "You're also stubborn and impossible and too good to be true. I'm really not. I'm selfish and demanding, and I work too much, and I have no idea how to do any of this." Marcus gestured between them. "But I'm willing to figure it out if you are." "I'm terrified." "Me too. People will talk." "Let them." "Your mother is going to have opinions." Marcus laughed. "My mother is going to love you. Fair warning, she'll probably cry when she meets Emma. She's been on my case about grandchildren for years." "Marcus." Clara's voice went serious. "I need you to understand something. Emma comes first. Always. If at any point this puts her at risk, emotionally, socially, anyway, I walk. I don't care how much I love you. She's my priority." "She's mine too," Marcus said simply. "Which is why we're going to do this right. No rushing. We're going to take our time, let Emma adjust, make sure she's comfortable. I don't want to be the guy who sweeps in and tries to replace her father. I want to earn my place in her life." "You already have a place in her life. She adores you." The feeling is entirely mutual. Marcus reached for Clara's hand, and this time, she took it without hesitation.
So, what do you say?
Can we try this? Slowly, carefully, one day at a time. Clara looked at their joined hands, at the roses blooming around them, at the city that had always seemed so intimidating but now felt like home. One day at a time, she agreed. 3 months later, Marcus threw Emma a third birthday party that was the talk of his entire social circle. Not because it was at his townhouse, or because it featured a princess-themed bouncy castle in the living room, or because the cake cost more than most people's monthly rent. But because Marcus Harrison, billionaire CEO, spent the entire afternoon wearing a plastic tiara and playing Tea Party with 24 3-year-olds while being genuinely, obviously happy. His mother, who had indeed cried when meeting Emma, cornered him in the kitchen. "She's wonderful," she said, meaning Clara, who was currently attempting to organize a musical chairs game. Sarah would have loved her. "I think so too," Marcus agreed, watching Clara laugh at something Emma said, her whole face alight with joy. "And you? You love her?" "More than I thought possible." His mother hugged him tight.
Good.
"Don't wait too long to tell her. Life's too short, sweetheart. Trust me on that." Marcus took her advice that night, after Emma was asleep and he and Clara were cleaning up wrapping paper and deflating balloons. "Thank you for today," Clara said, stuffing trash into a garbage bag. "Emma had the best time. She's going to remember this birthday forever." "Can I tell you something?" Marcus put down the balloon he was holding. "Of course. I love you." The words came out simple, honest, without ceremony. "I love the way you always put Emma first, but somehow still have room in your heart for others. I love how hard you work and how you never complain. I love your terrible singing voice and the way you hum when you're concentrating. I love that you call me out when I'm being ridiculous and that you make me laugh and that you've taught me what it means to build a life, not just live one. I love you, Clara. Completely. Imperfectly. Forever, if you'll let me." Clara stood frozen, a half-inflated balloon in one hand, tears streaming down her face. "You love my terrible singing voice." "It's truly awful," Marcus confirmed, stepping closer. "Worst I've ever heard. And you love me anyway?" "Especially for that." Clara dropped the balloon and threw her arms around him, and Marcus caught her, lifting her off her feet, breathing in her scent of vanilla and home. "I love you too," she whispered against his neck. "I've been trying not to for months, but I do. I love you so much it terrifies me." "Good thing we're terrified together then." They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the wreckage of a 3-year-old's birthday party, and Marcus thought about how life never goes according to plan. How he'd thought his story ended with Sarah, but it had really just been an intermission. How he'd almost married the wrong woman for all the wrong reasons. How a little girl with a fever and her incredible mother had saved him from a life of comfortable unhappiness. "Marry me," he said suddenly, surprising himself. Clara pulled back, eyes wide.
What? Not now.
"Not tomorrow. But someday, when you're ready, when Emma's ready, marry me. Let me be your husband and Emma's father, in every way that matters. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that you're not too good to be true. You're just too good for me, and I'm going to spend every day trying to deserve you." "Marcus." "You don't have to answer now."
Think about it. Take your time.
"I'll wait as long as you need." Clara cupped his face in her hands, her thumbs brushing his cheekbones. "You're impossible." "Is that a yes?" "It's a ask me again when Emma's 4, and I'll probably say yes." Marcus grinned. "I can work with that." A year later, on Emma's 4th birthday, Marcus asked again. This time, they were at the park where he and Emma had spent countless Saturday mornings, and this time, Emma wasn't on the plan, bouncing with excitement as Marcus got down on one knee. "Clara Martinez, you make every day better just by being in it. Will you marry me?" "Say yes, Mama." Emma shrieked before Clara could answer. "Say yes, so Marcus can be my real daddy." Clara laughed and cried and said yes, and Emma jumped between them, hugging them both and announcing to everyone in the park that her mama was getting married, and wasn't that the most exciting thing ever? They married 6 months later in a small ceremony with only their closest friends and family. Emma was the flower girl and took her job very seriously, stopping to explain to each guest that these were very special flowers for a very special day. Clara wore a simple dress that made her look like she was glowing from within. Marcus cried during the vows, not caring that it wasn't manly or professional. His mother, sitting in the front row next to Clara's parents, whispered to anyone who would listen that she'd never seen her son so happy. And she was right, because sometimes love doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, in tea parties and bedtime stories, in cookies covered with too many chocolate chips and midnight vigils over a fevered child. Sometimes it looks like a single mother doing her best, and a grieving widower learning to live again, and a little girl brave enough to demand the love she deserves. Sometimes the best love stories are the ones we never planned for, the ones that find us when we're not looking, that challenge everything we thought we knew about ourselves, that teach us that family isn't always about blood but about showing up, again and again, choosing love over fear. As Marcus danced with his new wife at their small reception, Emma cutting in every few minutes because she wanted to dance with both my parents, he thought about how close he'd come to missing this. How he'd almost settled for a life of comfortable emptiness. How a mocking comment and a little girl's fever had changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Clara asked, her head on his shoulder. How grateful I am that Emma got sick that day. That's a terrible thing to be grateful for. Okay, maybe not the fever itself, but what it led to, what it made me see. Clara pulled back to look at him, her eyes soft. What did it make you see? That love doesn't follow rules or timelines or social expectations. That the heart wants what it wants, regardless of logic. That sometimes the family you're meant to have finds you in the most unexpected ways. He pulled her closer. That you and Emma are my second chance at everything. No pressure then, Clara teased, but her eyes were shining. Just a lifetime of happiness. Think you can handle that? With you, I think I can handle anything. Emma crashed into them again, demanding another dance, and they obliged, the three of them moving together to music only they could hear, the sound of a family being born, of second chances being taken, of love being brave enough to try again. And in the language of hearts that had been broken and healed, lost and found, it was the most beautiful sound in the world.